ask you though, because you call Jeff Dunham an asshole in the video, which was among the ventriloquists rather controversial.
I truly liked everyone I'd met at the convention, except for Jeff Dunham, who's a real asshole.
It's purely an opinion, and you say you don't.
I almost forgot about that.
Oh well, that I think is the main thing that is troubled me, because it felt entitled to his time.
Despite my distaste for his humor, he is the top dog here. So I really wanted to check out his lecture and learn from the best before my performance tonight.
Okay, so let's just see it works before we...
I understand what you're asking, but he said I don't want to be filmed, so I have to respect that.
You guys going out? Because I want to take...
So originally we were told that we could film the Jeff Dunham talk, but then last minute when we came in with the camera, Jeff Dunham actually personally requested for us not to film it. Additionally, Dunham has turned down our multiple requests to interview him, so we weren't able to get to talk to the Mac Daddy of the dummy scene. I get that he's a big deal, but we aren't TMZ, and this publicity dodging definitely...
It's purely an opinion, and you say you don't...
I almost forgot about that.
Oh, well, that I think is the main thing that is troubled me, because it felt entitled to his time, and I can tell you all the things that are going on and all the stuff he has to do, and it was presented as if he was just dodging the interview, which he might have been, but even then, it's kind of sometimes that's good for business. Sometimes you're contractually obligated, and I was just curious why you had such animosity there, and why that affected you so much. Because you said you liked everyone except Jeff, who's an asshole, which is kind of the opposite from what most people who meet Jeff would say. So I'm just curious.
Well, to be honest with you, the way I said it, I didn't necessarily want it to make it seem like I really genuinely was saying like he's 100% an asshole and that should be written in stone. I wasn't trying to but it was kind of just almost like
well,
when you call someone, an ass, what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I guess, I just didn't want it necessarily to be interpreted across the board that, I hate this guy and he's a total asshole. But just from my experience of content that I did, in my opinion, and just how offended at least I personally was by some of the content, that's just kind of, I would have to watch exact segment, part of that again, but I just don't remember trying to maliciously say that.
So when you say you're offended by the content, what are you offended by specifically? And then have you watched a full special or watched it in context? Just curious. You there?
Had I watched a full special of his?
Yeah, his first special.
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out. Do you ask if I watched a full one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what offends you about him?
All right. So I just thought some of his characters, although to be honest with you, I think, he has the right to make this sort of comedy. I'm not trying to say, he should be canceled. You understand? I'm just saying that me personally was offended by some of the material because of just the racist connotations of it. But I know you can argue oh, it's comedy, everything goes, all this, that. But just seeing the kind of crowd that he was drawing and this mentality of the room, to me just seemed like it was a bit, at least offensive to me, and not. I'm sorry.
So you've been to a show. You said you've seen his crowd, or are you just saying from the outside?
No, sorry. Sorry, I just lost you.
I can hear you now. You sound better, actually. Can hear your background noise, but
Hello.
yes. So you said you were talking about his audience and how. Can you hear me? Hello. Da 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 do do. Ooh. Not getting it. Well, this is a great time for the interview to cut out right when we got into some, juicy deets. Just getting in on your thought process. Our technical issues are immense today, so I apologize for that. And that's a bummer that's happening right now because it makes the conversation rather awkward. Because like just leave it on like a sort. I want to clear this up. Come on. He needs to charge his headphones. I need to charge my phone. So hopefully we can get.
Hey, I hear you again. Sorry.
You can hear me?
Do you hear me?
Yes. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sorry about that. My AirPods died, and like then I couldn't hear you, and I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah.
So
Sorry. You asked if I had a show of his.
yeah, because you said you the audience that he attracted and such. So I was just curious, have you like been to a show and seen the audience or like what?
Oh, sorry. That was based on articles I had written. Not written. Articles I had read and just like footage I had seen. But no, I have not been to a show. But I'm open to going to a show, and like I'm not opposed to going to a show. And I mean, I'm like, I would have to watch that scene again, exactly what I said. But to be honest, like, I mean, I didn't really mean it like as like maybe I did. Maybe it came off as harsh, but like kind of was almost like genuinely kind of like sarcastically just like saying that. But I didn't really mean it like,
So
full on like,
absolutely. But this is a great example of what you're doing for content may come off when you're just being a character and spreading your like your feelings in the moment, and it might come off as a hit piece on Jeff just because it was like, oh, he's racist and he's an asshole, and it's kind of it felt kind of like that. It was and from our perspective it was like, oh my gosh, he had his whole family there, his new 2 children, he's quite busy. It was nothing against you guys. So I would just wanted to clear that up specifically, because that.
Yeah, sorry, you're kind of breaking up a lot.
Okay,
for
try
some
Landon.
reason.
Yeah.
But I think you were roughly saying that it came off as it might have been a piece against him.
Mm-hmm.
My intentions was not to do a hit piece against him by any means.
Sure.
I was just basically sharing some of my findings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
hey, sorry, yeah, I was explaining. Sorry, so let me see. Do I hear you better for the question?
Yeah, can you hear me right now? How's that?
It's up a little bit, but I can kind of hear you. But this has basically come down to the Jeff Dunham
Right,
interrogation hour.
Well, no, we were just asking because from some of Vice's videos, they kind of come at the location or the subject matter from maybe a negative bias or altered connotation. And so from the ventriloquist convention, while most of the attendees would be in favor of it, it was kind of presented to the public, Vice's viewers, as something that is to be steered away from and negative, and you kind of aimed more for a gotcha thing at the convention, and then kind of led up to attacking Jeff when you hadn't seen his material at all. Which, when you look at his characters, the photos of his characters might seem racist. When you see the comedy and the fact that he really doesn't pick political sides or anything of that nature, and all of his comedy is derived off of stuff that both sides of whomever would find funny. I'm not sure how well your argument there stands up. But of course, when he denies an interview, it just seemed kind of rash to call him that name. Which, if you might have meant it in passing, I'm not sure. But it kind of was an odd way to wrap up the interview.
For sure. Well, that was cool at all to be like a hit piece on him. That's not why we went in there. But I guess just at the time, perhaps I just became a little frustrated that we couldn't ask him about these issues that I, had come to learn within all of my research before going there. And then, almost like kind of just like I just didn't mean it like so seriously, or for it to like be like that is like the main highlight of why we were there, because by no means was it.
Exactly.
We were there just to like experience the convention and learn more about the world. But we just saw some of his material and we're just not in favor necessarily. And then I wanted to clear that, I just wanted to talk to him and ask him some questions. So then, yeah, I might have said, something in the moment of just how, I was feeling. But
Now,
in no means was I trying to, like, exemplify, I wasn't trying to, like, amplify that really beyond just, like, a quick statement.
So
it just wasn't
some
my
of
intent,
the
but also I apologize if it has come off as that way. But by no means did I personally, or as a company, as an establishment, want to like drag him through any way. We just kind of like showed, what I thought and just, what happened. But we weren't really trying to make that like, but I understand it's a sensitive subject. Maybe it was, seen as like this. And that's unfortunate that as a result of, that scene, that it might have hindered people's response and appreciation of the rest of the video.
I'm
because
curious.
The rest of the video
Taji,
is like the main focus. It it shouldn't be
right. It's
the
focused
negative.
on the convention, right?
So it's unfortunate if like maybe it could have been it could have been
I'm curious.
done in a better way where that wouldn't have like come off as like to be such a large focus of it. But it's just it wasn't my